The Vikings were a distinct group that originated here in Scandinavia from around 750 to around 1050 AD. They are perhaps most famous today for their strange gods, violent warrior culture, and those horned helmets. Yet Marvel's comics and Wagner's operas offer a caricature of who the Norsemen really were. The reality, as ever, was far more complex, brutal, and terrifying, especially when we consider Viking culture on its own terms, see it today as they themselves would have seen it, as completely normal. Treatment after death depended on social status. A poor man might be cremated on a simple wooden boat. A thief would be hung from a tree and left for the birds. A slave simply fed to the dogs. A chief's funeral, however, was far more complex. Buckle up, this is where it gets really weird. First, the chieftain is placed on a large ship surrounded by herbs, bread, meat and weapons. The dog is then cut in two and placed on the boat. Horses, cows and chickens are decapitated and thrown in. In some sites, as many as 14 horses are killed. At others, 5 large bears are hung from a tree instead. The family of the chief asks which of his slave girls would volunteer to die with their master. One girl quote-unquote volunteers and proceeds to visit each tent in the village and have sex with the master within. Throughout, she is given alcohol to drink and is singing happily. At one point, the girl is lifted 3 times above a doorframe and exclaims the visions she then sees. Family and friends, a master in paradise, and so on. The girl then decapitates a chicken and throws it onto the boat. All this is overseen, by the way, by a woman described as an old giantess, fat and grim to behold. They call her the Angel of Death. This woman pulls the slave girl onto the ship, which is now partly covered by a tent. A further 6 men go in with them under the covering, and each has sex with the girl. She is then placed next to the dead chieftain. It is worth noting at this point that all this takes place 10 days after the man's death, at which point his corpse would either have grown black from the frost or else rotten and putrid in the heat. The slave girl's hands and legs are held down. A rope is tied around her neck and used to strangle her. Simultaneously, the Angel of Death stabs the girl in the chest with a knife. Thoughtfully, her screams are drowned out by the gathered crowd, hitting their shields with sticks, lest any onlooking maidens should become upset. Finally, the chief's closest male relative would back away from the crowd towards the boat, naked, holding a flaming torch in one hand and, of course, covering his anus with the other. He lights the pyre surrounding the ship, and the chieftain and slave girl are thus cremated.